Does calm really always come before the storm? Hello, everyone, and welcome to Love Unexpected, a true story that will take you on a romantic journey that I promise will make you smile, sigh, and believe in the power of love. I'm your host, Tom Howie. This amazing story follows a young woman named Dawn Lawson, who had the experience of a lifetime as she traveled through Poland and Ukraine in 1992, shortly after they had become free from communist control. Her adventure is filled with unexpected turns, twists, and revelations sure to capture your heart and imagination. So let's dive into the story of how she found love that she never expected from across the sea. Thank you for joining us. Off we go. All right, Dawn, if you don't mind, I want to take us through the timeline of your journey in 1992. It all began in January when Sue, a woman who had been praying for you, tells you that this year you are going to have your dream trip to Eastern Europe, and that this year you will meet your husband and get married. In May, you take that trip and you meet your future husband. Then in August, after about 3 weeks of sending visa application for a fiancé visa, he's called in to the embassy and given the visa. On September 2nd of that year, Wiesiek and Sarah arrive in the U.S. You get married on September 19th, and in basically just over 9 months, all three parts of this prophecy that Sue shared with you have come true. That's truly remarkable. Congratulations, Mrs. Brashofsky. I think you definitely have many reasons to celebrate.
Wow, listening to you recall all the details just blows my mind again and makes me so grateful. Tom, this truly was worth celebrating, and we spent 4 hours doing it. We dined, we cut and ate cakes, we were toasted, and we danced, which, by the way, was a big no for the church where we had the wedding and reception.
But that makes no sense. You said that your dance ministry had danced in the church and on that very stage.
Yeah. So it's funny that when I moved to Tennessee, I didn't know that some of the churches viewed dance as a sin, so it was off limits. And Tom, of all the colleges I could attend, I ended up at a Southern Baptist one in the spring of 1988. And that fall, Carson Newman's campus pastor asked me to start a dance ministry there on campus. And this sounds crazy, but before 1990, the word dance wasn't even used on that campus.
What did they say that David did before the Lord?
Well, they didn't talk about it. They also thought he danced naked, so I don't know. That's another thing. But when I talked to them, they called these things foot functions, and they were not allowed on campus. So I naively agreed to start the dance ministry group on the campus when the college pastor asked me to do so. Our school had chapel meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and our dance ministry did our very first piece in the chapel just before Easter of 1989. And to avoid calling it dance, the campus pastor introduced it as a dramatic interpretation. So, Tom, I actually did have some students that were really worried about me, and they'd pull me aside and they said, "We think you're going to go to hell for dancing."
You are kidding me.
No. I mean, I'm telling you, they were very concerned. But God blessed the dance group, and it really made me dig in and find out how God felt about dance. And I found it throughout the Bible that he told us to rejoice with it. And he really blessed this dance group and worked through us to touch the hearts of students and professors and others in the community. And as time went on, we were finally introduced as an interpretive movement. And by the time that I graduated, everyone accepted the group, and it was called Dance.
Sounds like you had your very own Footloose story right there in East Tennessee.
Yes, I love that. Tom, I got to see that campus pastor again when I went to take that pre-wedding tour of the church. And he told me how extremely well the dance ministry I'd started was doing at the school. He said it actually become the most requested ministry group on the campus.
So you really changed some hearts and minds there on campus.
Well, I thought I had. But when I began to tell this woman who was showing me around the church that we were going to have dancers in the wedding and dancing in the reception, she put her hands up to her ears and was going, "I'm not hearing anything about dancing because our church doesn't look favorably on it."
I assume that's just code for if I don't know about it, then everything is okay.
And that's what I thought. So we didn't say anything more, and we just broke the church rules and danced for hours. Now, I think another thing that was different from Poland and the United States was the tradition of a first dance. So Wiesiek had to have someone help him find a good song. And let me tell you, Tom, someone recommended a really good one for him. The words talked about how this love, this relationship is real. And that was just so perfect because we had to prove to the government and convince our friends that our love for each other was real. Well, shortly after we began our romantic dance, one of my students accidentally kicked off his shoe, and of all places it could land, it landed on the train of my dress. Tom, people were laughing and pointing at this shoe all throughout our dance, which kind of hindered the romance a little bit. But I think that's, just the life of a teacher. There's always going to be kids and things happening around us. In fact, the children were around us during almost the entire reception. And it was so fun, though, just to see couples and children dancing for hours that night and being happy and celebrating. At one point, Wiesiek and I were even in the middle, and everyone was hopping and dancing in a big circle around us. It was just so much fun.
So let me take this minute to remind everyone that you can see video clips from the wedding reception, the scandalous dancing in eastern Tennessee, as well as photos from it and the honeymoon at the website loveunexpected.us. You'll find the link to it in our episode guide.
Yes, come and join us in the celebration. And that celebration lasted till about 10 o'clock that night. Since the guests weren't leaving the party, Steve, or we called him Steve Ski, announced that it was time for everyone to go so that the reception hall could be cleaned up. I don't think I've ever been to a wedding where someone had to tell all the guests to leave. The crowd, of course, followed us out and threw birdseed at us as we ran to the car. And then just a few minutes later, we arrived at the hotel and made our way into the room. My heart was just pounding wildly. I was just a storm of nerves and excitement. I still couldn't believe that I was really married to this man after all that we'd gone through. Now that Wiesiek and I were finally alone, I didn't know what to do. I spent so much time planning and choreographing this wedding that I hadn't put too much thought into the wedding night. And now,
trust me, he had.
Well, I'm such a planner, but I had no plans. And I had to just kind of let go of thoughts of expectations that might have been swirling in my head and just trust Wiesiek completely just to lead me in this dance.
Loving the show? We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave a review. It helps us reach more listeners and keep the love stories coming. Thank you for your support.
So I have to tell you about one of Wiesiek's favorite memories. In fact, he reminds me of it several times that happened that first morning as a married couple.
Please tell me this is a G-rated story.
Maybe. Just kidding. Yes, of course it is. Well, that suite had a large jacuzzi bathtub in the bedroom, so we thought it'd be fun to have a bubble bath in it. And the bubbles weren't really forming under the running water, so we just kept pouring more bubble bath into the tub. Tom, I think we poured like close to half of a bottle of bubble bath into the water before we turned the jets on.
Oh, no.
Yeah. big mistake. It's like, well, you know those shows when someone puts too much soap in the washing machine and suds start overflowing from it? That's pretty much what happened to us. The bubbles began to rise really quickly and began to overflow the tub. And we had a moment of panic before we began grabbing towels from the bathroom and scooping up the bubbles. The only place that we could figure out to put them was in the shower stall. So here we are running back and forth, throwing piles of bubbles into the shower. By the time that we got things under control, the shower stall was filled completely to the top of bubbles, and we had to close the door, and it's overflowing the top of the shower. Oh my gosh.
I cannot even imagine what the cleaning crew, the questions they must have had cleaning your bathroom the next day. Which reminds me, we do have another bonus episode coming up where we answer listeners' questions.
Yeah.
We look forward to receiving your questions at loveunexpected.us or through our social media, Love Unexpected Podcast on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram.
Yes, we love connecting with you.
So I assume there's more to the honeymoon than just a night at the Comfort Suites and a bubble bath disaster. Again, keep it G-rated.
Oh, Tom, you know there was. Wiesiek had booked a room for 5 nights in Chattanooga at the historic Reed House. It was a lovely place that was built in 1872. So before going there, we had to drive back to my parents' house to drop off my wedding gown, his tux, and then get our suitcases that we'd packed for the honeymoon. But when we arrived at my parents' house, we were surprised to find out that it was filled with our family and our friends from the tour and Maryland and stuff, all socializing and eating leftovers from the rehearsal dinner and the wedding. So, of course, we didn't leave right away. We just enjoyed spending time with them all again. We decided to take this opportunity to open our cards, which was pretty smart because there was money in a lot of them, and opened the wedding gifts while we were with everyone. Then that afternoon, Wiesiek and I headed out of town to Chattanooga.
So I'm sure that everybody's curious, where did Sarah stay during all this time?
She stayed with my parents. I'm really not sure how long Richard and Renia were there, but Joanna was staying with our pastor just a couple blocks away, so she would be able to help them with translations. Mom and Dad introduced Sarah to Dollywood, and they took her shopping in Pigeon Forge, and Sarah began totally discovering East Tennessee. And I'm pretty sure that she also spent time with Jim and Peggy's children.
So that's Kara, and you were saying that Sarah and Kara became good friends by that point.
Yes, in fact, we had a joke that they were twins because they were just born 3 days apart. They looked nothing alike. But I'm telling you, there are so many people that still believe they were twins just because we said they were. And again, we'd say, and they were born 3 days apart. And people would go like, oh, that was a hard labor.
But you know what, with the America Polish time change, it could have been the same day. You never really know.
So back to the honeymoon in Chattanooga. We arrived at that Reed House, and when they found out that this was our honeymoon, they upgraded us to a suite. And for our listeners, I just have to say that back in the early 1990s, suites and hotels were different than they are now. There was no coffee maker or refrigerator in the room. There was a living room area with vintage furniture, a couch, chairs, table, as well as a wet bar feature with a sink. And then the other room had the bed, and then there was a bathroom. And as you would expect, we did hang the "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door, and I don't think we ever made it out of the room until after 2 p.m. And Tom, this was such a beautiful time of being together. It was just us.
So earlier you were saying that you really didn't get a chance to date before you were married.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing my math correctly, and math in public is not my strong suit, if I count 14 days of the tour and 17 days before the wedding, you were only around each other for a total of 31 days.
Yeah.
And a week of that, you were trying to avoid Wiesiek.
Yeah, I think that we got engaged, then we got married, and then we were able to date. And we'd been so busy working on the visa and the wedding that it took our honeymoon to finally feel like we were getting to know each other. Full disclosure, we felt sorry for the housekeeping because we stayed so long in our suite each day, and they had to come back, late in the afternoon to take care of our room. So that first day, we left them a note that said, "Thank you for coming and cleaning our room. Please help yourself to candy." Because we had brought this, fun-sized bag of candy bars, and we just left several out next to the note.
Well, I'm sure they liked that.
Well, they must have, because they were gone when we got back. And I ate my fair share of candy as well, because unfortunately, there wasn't any room service, and not eating until late in the afternoon meant I was hungry a lot. Get ready, listeners. In 2025, we're turning up the romance with our brand new podcast, Unexpected Love Stories. With charming meet-cutes and heartwarming twists, dive into the real-life love stories of couples, some that you know, and others that you'll love getting to know. Each episode is packed with laughter, surprises, and moments that'll make you believe in love all over again.
Dawn, a hungry bride can become a hangry woman. And I would guess that doesn't make for a romantic honeymoon. Hopefully, you two did do something about that.
Well, yeah, we did.
Again, I will remind you this is a G-rated program.
Wiesiek still reminds me that I often would say, "Honey, I'm hungry." So we needed to do something about eating while we were in the room. So we walked to historic Woolworths in town, and we bought a coffee maker, coffee filters, cups, and a tin of Danish cookies. And then we also went to a grocery store. And of course, we bought things like lunch items, bread, lunch meat, cream cheese. I think he got some grapes just to hold us over while we were hunkered down in the room.
But now you told me there was not a fridge in the room.
No. So we improvised by filling the sink in the wet bar with ice, and then we just put all the perishables on top of the ice and covered it with a hand towel, and it worked really well. And I was able to discover that my new husband was very innovative, as well as funny and thoughtful. He was all about the details. And there were times when I'd come out of the bathroom and he would have this table set up with candles and snacks. And he just made me feel so cared for. And he also cared for the cleaning staff too. And he made sure that before we left the room each day, we would put out more candy bars, the tin of cookies, and then we'd prepare the coffee pot so the maids just needed to turn it on. And I'd just leave a note thanking them for cleaning, and it just invited them to help themselves to the cookies, candies, and we said just push the brew button if you want some coffee. And each evening when we returned, the coffee was drunk, the candy bars and several cookies were gone, and they always left us sweet notes thanking us for sharing with them.
That is incredible. So I'm hearing that you didn't leave your room very often. Mm-hmm. Dawn, I've been to Chattanooga. It's an absolutely beautiful town. Did you get any opportunity to see it?
Well, yeah, we saw a little of it. I'd like to go back down again so I can get the full thing. Well, we walked along the Tennessee River. We visited Lookout Mountain and Ruby Falls, which is a beautiful cave that has this tall waterfall inside of it. And then one evening, we went to the movie theater and saw a movie that had just come out called Sister Act. And that's now one of our family favorites. Tom, I think one of the sweetest things that happened was on the morning that we were going to check out. There was a knock on the door, which was strange, of course. Why is someone knocking on our door? Wiesiek put on his robe and went to it. And there stood a few of the hotel maids, and they said, "We just wanted to meet the couple who left us treats all week." That was just the sweetest thing.
It was nice that they came to thank you personally. I'm assuming that didn't happen at the Comfort Suites with the bubble bath disaster. Honestly, you never know what random acts of kindness will touch somebody.
Agreed. It had been a beautiful week. Our honeymoon was just what we needed, a low-key time of getting to know each other and finally letting our unbridled passions out. G-rated. I think that long wait to be alone together made the week all that much sweeter. Wiesiek was an incredible gift to me, and I really thought he was my dream come true. Tom, you probably agree that most newlyweds feel like that. I was walking on air, and I truly believed this completely blissful feeling was going to last forever. But even the most perfect matches and fairy tale marriages go through times of testing and trials. And it was just a couple months in that Wiesiek and I found ourselves at a crossroads where life circumstances and overwhelming emotions pushed us to the very brink.
That wraps up this season of Love Unexpected. Be sure to click the subscribe and notification buttons for this podcast so you won't miss a single episode when Season 4 comes out in 2025. You can really help us boost our listenership by leaving a rating as well as a comment and review wherever you stream this podcast. Please share our podcast with your family and friends so that they can enjoy it as well. They can listen to Love Unexpected on any of their favorite podcast platforms. To see photos and video clips that go along with the story, go to our website, loveunexpected.us. You can find the link to it in the episode guide. We would love to hear from you, so email your comments and questions to our website. We look forward to connecting with you on social media at Love Unexpected on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Our producer for this show and creator of original music is Joe E.P. Music. Our host, Tom Howley. Our writer is Dawn Prushkovsky. Our media manager is Jean Prushkovsky.